Good evening, everybody. Well, should be razzed up after that intro music. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room, then and now here on the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. I'm Greg Christ, joined by my good friend, Mr. Frank Fear. Frank, good to see you again.
Always a
We
pleasure and an honor.
absolutely always have a good time here on the show. We hope you guys enjoy it as much as we do, and we think we got another one lined up for you tonight. We think it's going to be fun and interesting, entertaining. We hope, and we're looking forward to it. We got all kinds of things to talk about. Of course, we got baseball, we got basketball, football. We got it all going on right now. And I always said, people talk about the spring and early summer, not much being going on, but tell you what, Frank, we got we got activity and lots of it.
Boy, and it's good activity. The baseball team opened home today, 8-0, beating Ohio. And
Yep.
we're going to have Mark Parsons on later after Jeff Sniffen, Jeff Chase talks about his career. And Mark was at the down in Nashville at the games at Lipscomb. Lipscomb, got to get that right, over the weekend, and Mountaineers swept them 4 games and won today. And they're going to play the Atlantic Sun conference teams. Craig, I'm about from my home here in Florida, about 10 miles from Florida Gulf Coast. They're in the Atlantic Sun, and they're going to play. Mountaineers are going to play at Queens in North Carolina over the weekend, then come home and play Kennesaw State. I think Kennesaw is in a different league now, but it's really exciting. This is the best start
Yeah.
for the Mountaineers in decades.
Yep. I got the chance to actually watch the entire game Monday and against Lipscomb, and man, they look solid. They just they hit the ball. They defend well. The pitching was good. It was fun to watch them, and 8-0. I mean, who would have thought? That's hard to do in any sport, but baseball they play so many games that you get frustrated when they lose a game, but then you think, you got 60 games to go,
Yeah.
and here they are 8-0. So yeah, it's exciting, and like I said, they look really solid. They hit the ball well. They've got good defense. Made some really good plays, in that game that I watched, and I thought they were going to lose. They gave up gave up 4 runs there, and inning tied the game up, but they had Lipscomb had the bases loaded, I think, with no outs, and they were able to hold them without scoring again. And then, of course, come back and won it in the top of the 10th. They hit a home run, and that was the difference. But yeah, exciting stuff from the baseball squad. We I think last year got people keenly interested in the baseball program, and looks like it's just continuing on from where they left off.
Yeah, and how about those Mountaineer men last night? Boy, did they
Yeah,
come out with a lot of energy. What'd you think about
gosh.
that? Boy, they just wiped out TCU.
Well, one thing, and I know everybody's talking about their shooting percentage, which was phenomenal. I mean, they shot the ball extremely well from both the three and the two. And but what I was more impressed with was the defense. They gave up 55 points, and that's not a bad basketball team that they played last night. And that defense was something to watch, and holding those guys to 55 points was fantastic. But if they if they can continue to shoot like that, which will be hard to do, but man, I'm telling you what, they look like a team from early in the season, and very encouraging. It's a good time. I heard the announcer even say, "Good time." To get it all together, pull it all back together here at the end of the season. So hopefully they can keep that going. I still think they need another win or two, maybe to get in the tournament. And unless they make a big run in the conference tournament, they're going to need I think another win at least, maybe two, to get in the tournament. So that's a good start right there. It's encouraging, to say the least.
Yeah, and it was really good to see Harris. I've been
Yeah.
watching him, and he really played with energy last night. Got hurt, but I'll tell you what, he was a force in the first half, and now this weekend it's going to be interesting. BYU has really come on. We're playing at BYU, and then Utah. And the big news, obviously, is one of our former guests,
Yep.
Josh Eilert, is now the acting coach of the Utah Utes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something. How I mean, I'm sure he's got to be thinking, why can't I get like just a head coaching job somewhere here? Why do I keep having to be the interim guy? And yeah, when I saw that, I was like, my goodness, um, I'm sure it's a whirlwind again for him. And of course, you know, part of the reason he's got that job is that he was the head coach at WVU. He
Mhm.
was a head coach, and as the assistant coach and the head coach goes, they're going to look for somebody that has a little bit of head coaching experience, and that's just adding to his resume, and I think it's great. And maybe he can turn it around here at the end and make some inroads into getting that head job. It'd be great to see it. I think he would do a fine job if he was somewhere, where he knew he was going to be the coach for at least a few years and able to build the program a little bit. I think, he's a smart guy. He's young, energetic, and obviously knows basketball. I think he would do a good job if he just gets the chance in the right place.
Yeah, I agree. And talking about Utah, and we'll watch this. The women just tipped off at home against Utah, and we'll keep everybody up to date on the score.
Yep.
But
Yep.
the women had a tough go. They really have challenge. They're challenged on the road against good
Yeah.
teams, but
Yep.
still they're 20 wins, and so they're favored tonight. Utah is a very good women's basketball team, so we'll watch that closely. They're over 20 wins as well, but. Mark Kellogg does such a great job with that team. So a lot of things moving in the right direction, and that's the now, but also the then. And so I'll let you do the honors, but we're so pleased to have Jeff Sniffen with him. I've gotten a chance to get to know Jeff a bit, and not only talk about his football days, but also about his career. And I'm laughing because what an incredible experience. He keeps on
Yeah.
talking about Stallone and all these other
Yeah.
folks, Jimmy Smits, that and he's getting ready. He's getting ready to go overseas and do another video. So we'll bring you do the
Well,
honors. We'll bring Jeff on.
okay. I have to chuckle a little bit as well. I was telling my wife about the show and who we were going to have on, and she said, I don't know if I know who that is, and I said, well, I watched him, when I was when he was in college. I watched him play. I remember him very well playing, and so I was going to pull up the credits and show her, tell her some of the things he was in, and I saw his picture, and I'm like, hey, I've seen that guy on TV before. I I know who this is now. After I saw his picture, I'm like, I know him. Anyway, we are to death. Of course, Mountaineer fans from then remember great offensive tackle Jeff Sniffen, and has gone on to a tremendous career, acting career, and now known as Jeff Chase. That's the stage name, and we are tickled to death to have Jeff with us. Jeff, and there he is, magically appeared.
How you
Good to see
doing?
you. Doing great. Good to see you, and great to have you here. We appreciate you.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Awesome. You played back in in a period there where most Mountaineer fans look back at so fondly, and you were obviously a member of the undefeated team that played for the national championship, and
Yeah.
it had to be some kind of an experience for you guys. Tell us a little bit about that before we get rolling here. Let's hear about that experience.
Well, being part of that team in that era was certainly an unbelievable opportunity, and I'm honored to be able to say that I was part of that. When I chose to go to West Virginia, we it was a great place when I went on my visit back in 1986 or 85. And I just fell in love with the place, and being a kid from New Jersey who thought I knew it all, was really humbled when I got to see the rest, what the rest of the world was. I'd never really been out of New Jersey, and then coming to West Virginia and uh, learning about the culture there was just amazing, and I embraced it and adapted and said, I don't want anybody to know I'm from New Jersey anymore, you know, because tried to drop the New Jersey accent, everything, because I just fell in love with the just the people there. I mean, the people, and of course, Don Nealon and the coaching leadership there just took an 18-year-old kid and molded him into a man. Is something that I'll always cherish and always keep with me. So I really am glad I was able to be a part of going 11-0 when Bino Cook came on and said, these guys are going to go 11-0. I was just experiencing my 4-7 year, my freshman year. And I'm like, really? We're going to go 4-7? I don't know. I remember getting beat by Miami, 50 something to 14, at home. I said, we're not really set up for going 11-0, but man, I'll tell you what, Major Harris steps in the role, and it was just unbelievable thing to be involved in, especially, I went from, 0 to 100 in a matter of months, and it was unbelievable to be a part of that.
Being from New Jersey, how did things evolve to get you to WVU? How did all that happen?
Well, back in the day, back then, it was so much different being a high school football player, a blue chip player. The access wasn't, the internet and all that wasn't there, and not everybody knew about you. So I didn't really have a football coach that went after me. Somehow I got on somebody's list, and being a 6'7", 245-pound at the time tight end, I had people started showing up, and then I started to get all these visits and letters in the mail, and I'm like, wow, I have a crate full I still have from every college you can, every Division I team. And then I just slowly, took these visits, people came to see me, and there's something about, Bob Simmons, who came to visit my high school. He convinced me to schedule a visit there. And then after that visit, it was, I was like, I want to play football here. I met a lot of great guys. My host was Jeff Lucas and Craig Taylor and David Grant, all from Jersey. And man, I just fell in love with the place, and I canceled 2 visits that I had remaining, one to UCLA and one to Tennessee. I said, I'm going to West Virginia. I think it had a little bit to do with the fact that West Virginia was one of the only schools that said, no, we'll let you play tight end, and we're going to give you number 80 too, because I cared about that back then. Like, that was really something and of course, showed up. I was 260 pounds on my visit. Brian Smiter and Dunlap, and these guys were huge, 300-pound men, and I felt small at like 245, 250. And so I showed up at camp at 260 pounds, and was never the fastest guy, but I could catch anything and I could block. But they slowly said, you'd be a really good left tackle. You got good feet. I said, okay. And I look back now and say, nobody was ready for that big tight end yet. If I had some guidance, I probably would have said, nope, I'm going to stay at 275, and I'm going to run over everybody I see. But that was before, the big tight end wasn't really, part of even professional football at the time. So, but I fell in love with the place, fell in love with the people. Coach Nealon was just, the man convinced me that that's where I wanted to play football. So that's my choice I made, and I'm glad I did.
Folks, a lot of our viewers, they like to hear, especially about Coach Nealon. Just take a second here before we move on to just talk about Coach Nealon a little bit, and what he did for you, what he means to WVU and meant to WVU at that time. I know a lot of people are interested in hearing these stories.
Yeah, well, people who follow football today, the head coach isn't as I don't feel like he's as connected. It's kind of like the pro football game, where he kind of sits up on the tower during practice and looks over everybody, and really want to talk to you. He's going to talk to your coach. Don Nealon was a guy, for me anyway. He was very engaged and very in touch with you personally, and he'd bring you into his office and sit you down. He knew everything that was going on. I mean, he knew about everybody and knew everything about you. Wanted to know about your personal life, wanted to know how you were doing. And he was a sharp guy. I mean, you couldn't pull the wool over his eye. When you're that age, you think you're the smartest guy in the room, but man, that guy, and his football knowledge was, to me, his record shows that. And even today, what a sharp guy. Last year at Brian Joswiak's golf tournament in Morgantown that I like to attend every year, we honored him. And I'm blanking on his age, but we honored it was his birthday. And I mean, since you walk up to him and how many thousands of players that he's met, and he shakes your hand. He says, "Hey Jeff, how you doing?" I can't remember people's names that I met last week. And this guy, he knows exactly who you are. So he takes, a real interest and takes a heartful interest in each player. And, that's all aside from his football skills and knowledge and how to win and things like that and how to recruit. So, what a wonderful man.
Ask you like we've asked everybody else, and we know how we feel about this. If Major Harris hadn't got hurt in the national championship, take it from there.
Yeah, you look at our season and the good teams that we played, and our margin of victory, every game. I think our closest game was Virginia Tech, 22-11 or something like that, or 22 to something. That was the closest margin of victory. Everybody else we scored 50 plus points. And this wasn't Big 12 football that you're seeing where you're just throwing bombs every play. This was hard school, hard nosed, smash mouth football. And Major, who that year I believe he threw for like 1,700 yards and ran for another 600 at like a 57% completion percentage. He's the guy who got us there. And of course, we were underdogs in that, we were treated like, we didn't belong there that whole week. And then the game started and, everything was going good. And then, man, once they hurt him, now nothing against Greg Jones, but the offense wasn't built around a quarterback like Greg Jones. It was built for a guy who, me as a left tackle, when you got a straight drop and you're hard with the right inside foot and you're holding hard, and then you look over your left and Major's over there. What is he doing over there? I didn't really question it because he was going to make something happen. But that guy, when he got hurt, he just was an audible gasp. Not by the entire team, coaching staff, and the fans. It was like, now what? And it was tough because with Major, that's a different outcome because he did things that nobody else. They didn't know how to stop him. They didn't have a game plan, so they had. Not saying they had to hurt him, but I think they may have been trying. That they had put out a sigh of relief when they saw he was out. But incredible.
We all agreed that we would have won had he been healthy.
Yeah,
we've all decided that. So we're sticking to that.
Yeah,
Frank, you want to jump in?
Well, when I got a chance to get to know Jeff, we talked about our dear friend, Dale Wolfley. And there's so many people who watch this show that, Dale's still and always will be at the top of the list. Talk a bit about playing with Dale.
Well, it's hard to talk about. He was a big part of my circle. You had me and Greg Herzog and Dale Wolfley and E.J. Wheeler and Dave Alloway, Greg Fowler, who ended up leaving, and Brad Carroll. We were a tight knit group, and he was a wild man, and he was a wild man on the field and a little bit off the field, But on the field, man, that kid, that guy, just gave it all and just brought everybody up a level, even in the weight room. I mean, he's squatting 800 pounds, banging his head on the bar before he's doing it. And, a guy you just like, dang, where does he get that energy? And of course, a big part of the success of the Mountaineer football team, and then afterwards, just it was incredible having him in the position that he was in, that brought us all back into the fold, because it felt like for a while that we, when we left, that, the alumni felt like we might have been on the outside a little bit. When you come back to town, you maybe expect a little bit, and we weren't getting that. You get tickets and sit in the end zone of the opposing team and things like that. And when Dale took the reins and incredible effort of just putting his arms around everybody and reaching out and getting everybody together, and I mean, he was incredible. And then to see him on game day, it was game day for him again. Just like when he played. He lived, above, and on game day, same way. And then when he was in the role with the university and the alumni association and everything, he did the same thing. He got us all rallied up. He'd bring us all together, and I mean, just a wonderful guy who's going to be sorely missed, and everybody who's involved with the program is going to feel his absence. And so, yeah, he'll be missed.
And you stayed close. You stayed close through the years.
Yeah. Oh, he was. Yeah, it feels funny saying this. He was a big fan of mine. And man, every time I was on TV or something, I'd get a text from him or a phone call. And the cool thing was, he bragged about me. So it meant a lot. There was a story I heard that he during a practice, and I don't know the exact time, he put one of my clips up on the jumbotron, up on the big board up there, and started playing. I think it was an acting reel that I had or something, and he started playing it because he wanted everybody to know what Jeff Sniffen was doing now. And then when I come to town, he'd bring me around and make the rounds. You see him on this, you see him on this. And so it was great. It really was.
Frank, I think we're talking about Wolfman. You look at his show that he did, the podcast. Everything they talk about as a football player that he was, the energy, all those types of things. I think one of the things that made him so successful, as far as the podcast show, was that energy. I mean, he was always like that. It wasn't an act. I mean, I'd
No, it wasn't.
On the phone. Yeah, talk to him on the phone, and it would come right through the phone. You could tell.
Yeah,
and,
definitely not an act.
No, and you could tell from watching him on his show that was him, and I think that's why he was so successful. Yeah, we really do miss him. We all had a good relationship with him and worked with him, and just had a really good time. So way too soon for sure.
Yeah, just glad I got to spend time with him at the golf tournament in July. So it wasn't too long out, but I'm glad we got to spend some time together. So.
Well, Jeff, I have to ask this question.
Sure.
You're from New Jersey. You're at WVU playing football.
Yeah.
Is it in your mind at that time, I want to be an actor? Or how is that? I mean,
no.
Is that something
No.
come along?
Not at all. I was going to play 15 years in the NFL. You kidding me? That was my plan. You go 4-7 your senior year, it doesn't help. So, major leaving. So it kind of got forgotten about, and spent some years, the PSFL was a league that started. I spent 6 weeks in camp with Major. We had Major on our team as our quarterback. We were then that league folded, and then I played arena football, and I was still clawing my way, trying to get in, and had a few tryouts. Denver brought me in for a little while, and after I played, we were playing arena ball in Denver, and they came to watch the game, and I was leaving the hotel. The next day, I had a great game because I got to play tight end too, and a long snap, so that was a big help. But anyway, leaving the hotel, and so I said, "You got a message, sir?" And it was from the Broncos, and they said, "Don't leave." And so I went up there for a few days, and they worked me out, and had a lot of holdouts and stuff, and they ended up settling the holdouts. So they were just kind of trying to cover their bases. But they said, "Stay in shape. We're going to bring you. We're going to bring you in, just like the Redskins did." Wayne Sevier, as a long snapper, and he was special teams coach. He'd say, we're going to bring you in. We're going to bring you in. You better be ready. And but those things never happened. And I opened up a restaurant in Virginia. Still thinking about football because I'd been with the Baltimore team in the CFL, and when they had the American teams, and then I ended up in Norfolk, Virginia, opened up a restaurant at Norfolk at Old Dominion University. They had a big stadium that is now redone, and they didn't have a football team at the time, and the Shreveport team was moving to Norfolk. I'm like, there it is. I'm going to play for the Shreveport team. I contacted them. They're like, yep, we'd love to have you. And then the league got rid of the American teams. So, I wish I could just say, well, my knee got so messed up that I couldn't walk anymore. But I'm a lucky man. I have no aches and pains after all those years of playing football and hitting the ground. But I ended up in Florida. And my ex-wife, my ex-wife now, a wonderful gal, she got hired by Disney, and so we moved to Disney. My son was 6 weeks old, and moved to Florida. The state was on fire in '98, and I took a job with Disney I opened up because of my restaurant experience. Opened up a resort for them, and really didn't like it. And somebody said, "Man, you'd be great for that Indiana Jones show." Never thought about acting in my entire career. And, up to this point, never thought. I was always a ham, always a guy who wanted to get in front of, and perform. I could do impersonations, and Yago Smirnoff, comedian from Russia, I would do that. My mom would, But so anyway, so you'd be great for that Indiana Jones show. And I'm like, yeah, theme park entertainment. That's what I want to go do. And anyway, heard about a rehearsal they were having, and I crashed the rehearsal. I left my job at the resort, and I walked up, and they shook some hands, and they said, "Man, you got to come to an audition. You'd be great for this German mechanic in this stunt show." So I said, "All right," and then I booked that, and then I found out how much money they make, and it was an equity theater, which was a good union that we got paid pretty good. And then I heard about an audition. It's still, again, this is not. I don't want to be an actor. I'm like, this is good for now. They got a gym in the backstage in the green room, and I could work out and stay in shape. And I heard about an audition in Miami for a movie with Cuba Gooding and James Caan, and they needed a Russian guy. So I didn't have an agent. I was SAG eligible, Screen Actors Guild eligible, because I'd been at the stage for a year. And let me know if I'm going too long, but I'll wrap it up very quickly. So I go down to this audition, and a bunch of guys I worked with went down. And they all were trying to be in the acting business too, and some of them were successful. And they went down to the audition. They said, well, when they saw me walk in, they said, don't tell them we told you about it, because I didn't have an agent. So I walk into the audition, and the casting director says, "Okay, name and agent. We're all in this room." And they goes down the line, and then it looks at me, and I go, "Jeff Chase." And he goes, "Agent?" And I said, "I don't have one." I was a smart ass too, And he said, "Okay." So we go through the audition, and I do the lines and everything. I do the lines, and then he says, "All right, everybody, you can leave the room." He said, "You stay here." And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to smack this guy." If he tries to I'm 30 years old already. I'm not some young kid, It was like, I know that's young at 30, but, I'm not I've had businesses. So he says to me, he says, "You need to call this agent and tell him that, that you need representation." And he says, "Because I'm going to book you. I'm going to book you on the movie." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, but you need to call that." He said, "And don't ever do that again." And I said, "Well, I guess I won't have to. I guess I got an agent now." So then it went from there, and I booked a movie called All About the Benjamins, and then and a TV show in Orlando. And then I said, "I got to go to L.A." And on my first day in L.A., I met J.J. Abrams. And it turned into 5 episodes of Alias TV show, and Mission Impossible 3, and 2 Star Treks, and a pilot. I said it's a career now. So I started pursuing it full time, and 25 years later, and almost 200 credits now, and I'm living the dream, as I say, and I enjoy every minute of it. And now it's a passion of mine. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's in a nutshell.
I said you looking through your credits and the roles you played. Um, I said I guess the size always has an impact on that because I noticed that you've been a bodyguard for a lot of people. You've been
Yeah.
a big Russian guy for a lot of people.
Yeah, the end result is always the big guy. They want their lead actor or actress to beat me up and win. So movies we suspend belief. They are a fantasy. But yeah, it is the thing is being a physical guy and still being able to do my own stunts to this day. I'm 57, and I still do my own stunts. And I think a lot of people who are just stunt guys, they all say they can act, but being able to truly act and be able to deliver lines and big roles. Fortunately, I've been lucky enough to have those roles and proven that I can act and do my stunts. So you don't have to double me, or so that's been an advantage, and you could beat me up and kill me as many times as you want. You just have to pay me. That's all.
That's a pretty good outlook.
Yeah.
As long as you pay me.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not interested in fame anymore. I'm just interested in the dollar. That ship is that train has left the depot. Being famous. But I like where I kind of consider myself that blue collar guy, just like West Virginia Mountaineer. Where you still got every day you got to audition, you got to get up, you got to. I get to book roles just from phone calls and stuff, but I'm still auditioning 4 and 5 times a week and putting myself on tape now, which is a whole nother thing. But blue collar guy.
Yeah. Well, I think there must be, and Frank, you can tell me what you think, but there's degrees of famous. I mean, if I looked at your picture with Sylvester Stallone, I would say, "That's Sylvester Stallone," and I would look at you and say, "I've seen that guy in a lot of things. I know him."
That's what I get. I've seen that guy a lot, but nobody, I don't. I walk down the street sometimes and people say, "Oh, hey, you look like somebody," which amazes me because I never have the guts to walk up to somebody and say, "You look like this person," But these website and all that stuff because it's a necessary thing that you have to have. So.
Yeah, that's not to get off topic, but you see a lot of the musicians and things that today have gained their fame through YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, YouTube, yeah, all that now. Yeah.
Yep, that's the way they get their views. Frank, you want to jump in again here before we let Jeff get out of here?
Yeah, well, Jeff, Greg and I talked about this about a week ago. He said when we get Jeff on the show, he's got to talk about the Jimmy Smith's knife situation.
If we got time, I could do it really quickly. It's
oh no, please, we do.
Well, so I booked a guest starring role on Dexter, and that was some years ago, and it was Jimmy Smith was playing the DA, and he was being brought into the fold by Dexter, and Dexter was going to let him kill somebody. So I was a rotten gambler, and who my bookie would let me pay off my debts when I lost by going to beat up the people that also owe them money with a baseball bat. So, Dexter, he stops people that are going to do bad. He justifies it by somebody's going to do bad again, that he can kill him. So anyway, here we are in L.A., and I'm strapped to this table, gambling wheel, wrapped in cellophane, naked with a marble sack on, and I'm strapped to this table, and we're shooting, and it's a very emotional scene for Jimmy because it's what it's he's finally getting to let out some of his frustrations, and we do 20 takes with Jimmy with this retractable knife, and it's a retractable knife, and he brings it down on my chest, and he sits there, and he just revels in it, like and so we're doing 100 times, whatever, many times, and he's missing. I had a little acrylic plate the size of a postage stamp on my chest because that's all we were going to do is hit me with the retractable knife. And he's missing it every time. And he's like, sorry. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm a big, tough guy. I don't care, So the director, Marco Siega, comes in and he says, okay, we got one more shot. But, Jimmy, we're going to go, but I want you to raise the real knife. So it's this Rambo thing, it's a knife. And, and he's like, okay, yeah. And I didn't think anything of it. And I'm still strapped down to this table. Even on between takes, I can't get up because I'm mummified and up to my neck. So the director, walking into what we call Video Village, where I have all the equipment set up and everything, he says to Mark, to Dexter, he says to Mark, he says, Michael, he says, hey, if Jimmy forgets he's got the real knife, make sure you stop him. And I'm laying on the table, and I went, that was weird. So I didn't think anything of it. So we go through the whole scene because you want to build up this, emotion that Jimmy gets. And so he's building up to it and he brings that knife up. And then all of a sudden you hear Michael yell, don't do it, Jimmy, don't do it. And boom, brings the knife down on my chest. Cameraman standing over me, got the Steadicam in his hand. He drops it, $150,000 camera, drops it. Everybody's freaking out. Jimmy lands on the floor, falls to the floor, and gets in a fetal position. It's like, oh my gosh. Now, I have cellophane on my head, and I could just lift it up, but I'm in the scene. I'm playing like I'm getting killed, So I'm still in it, but realizing, and I don't want to necessarily look because I don't know, and I don't feel it because I don't know what getting a 10-inch knife in your heart feels like. So I finally look down, and I see the point of the knife sticking up, laying like this because it fell over, and I see a little bit of blood. And he hit the acrylic thing that time. He actually hit it, and it slid off and scratched me. So they shut down production for the whole day, and I met with the producer, Clyde Phillips, and he says to me, so, Jeff, we're really sorry. And he puts this paper in front of me. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but then he said, listen, tell your publicist. And I looked at him, I said, and I laughed. And I don't have a publicist. I'm my publicist. I'm not at that, wasn't at that level, or I probably should have had a publicist then. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm here, and I'm alive, and I'm thankful to be here. And then, it really didn't hit me. I was like, I just blew it off until I got on the phone with my wife back in Florida. She said, what happened? I said, and I started explaining to her, and I realized what could have happened, and I kind of got, wow. But anyway, I'm here today to tell about it. So it was an experience, and it was in the tabloids. I had everybody calling me, asking me questions. I had Inside Edition wanting me to be on the show, and whatever the other one that was at the time. And I just said, no, thanks. I really don't, need to talk about it. But there was no hard feelings, things happen, and I walked away. So.
That is a great story.
Yeah, it's straight from the horse's mouth. So anything else you hear, there's articles out there that says Jimmy repeatedly stabbed me in the chest. I said, no, that's not what happened. But
and we were talking before the show.
Yeah.
For those of you out there, all you got to do is go to the International Movie Database.
IMDb.
That's right. and you put in Jeff Chase, and there are photos and about, I think, 6 or 7 clips. Some are
Yeah.
as long as 7 minutes. And there's a great photo we were talking about before the show of you on the ground next to Sylvester Stallone. I
Yeah.
think you're dead.
Yeah, I am. He killed me. Yeah. I was playing Frankie in Escape Plan, The Extractors. So it was the second one. I was in the first one and the third one, actually. And so that's what I played the role of Frankie. And he said, "Well, you were a prisoner in the first one." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't care. I want you to play Frankie." So I was very happy to do that. And yeah, that was. He posted something on Instagram about it, about how hard it is to kill these big guys. So, but yeah, it was. But also, if I could, Frank, I have a new website. It's if I could plug that, jeffchaseofficial.com. And it's a work in progress, but it's up and running, and I'm going to be adding stuff to it. So you can always go, and there's a lot of videos and pictures on there, and trying to be my own promoter now, trying to get out there.
And
Awesome.
you're leaving for Croatia for another film next week.
Slovakia. It's supposed to be March 8th, but they pushed it back. It's called The Manor. And I play the chef, and pretty fun role. I'm looking forward to it. But they pushed the date back. Independent movies. You get the phone call, you get the start date, and you're not working until you get on the plane. Because independent movies they have difficulties sometimes. But this one I'm sure is going to happen. I know they got some good actors booked, and just pushed back a couple of weeks. So. I'll update it on my website and on Instagram and stuff
Awesome.
like that too.
That's fantastic.
Hopefully, as a chef, hopefully there's no knives involved since you're being chef.
Well, actually, there is. I'm a chef in the kitchen, so we have this big fight, and knives are involved. There's a big fight in the kitchen, and there's knives being thrown, big butcher knives too. So,
PTSD coming back around.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna be real safe. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we have our, as Greg knows, we have our own movie that's unfolding in Morgantown, and it's called The Rich Rodriguez Show.
Yeah. It's a drama.
That's right. So, Greg, we're going to bring in Mark Parsons. And by the way, Mark Parsons, the assistant producer on the show, said, "You got to get Jeff Sniffen on your show." And he's the one that gave me your telephone number.
How you doing, Mark? I'm doing great. Good to see you.
And so Mark's going to talk about what's going on with our team.
And before Mark gets going there, Frank, we need to we can't let Jeff slip away without the shoot to three questions. We'll get him.
Oh yeah, sure.
We want to make sure we do that. But Mark, you go ahead and jump right in.
Okay. Well, I've been asked to talk a little bit about players that may have an impact and come out kind of out of the woodwork and kind of make a step ahead here as we move forward with spring ball. As you know, the train left the station on Tuesday. It all got started Tuesday, and you better hang on because it's going to be a ride to experience. There have a roster of 126 players, and that's going to have to be cut down to the 105 maximum. And so there's a lot of players that are auditioning right now to keep their spot on this roster. And there's talk, that they may want to even add another 10 to 12 after spring ball to offset, needs that they may have. So then you're looking at another 10 to 12 that are going to have to be opened up so you can bring in some transfers. So we'll see all that comes about. I thought when I was kind of researching this, I thought I'd start with the defense since that's been kind of the problem area over the last year. And there's 4 or 5 players I think that are coming in here that are going to have a chance to make a difference and kind of step to the forefront. First one is Michael Coates, who's a defensive back He's a cornerback, actually, from transferring in from the University of Nevada, and he's a true shutdown corner. And we haven't had a true shutdown corner at WVU since Rasul Douglas back several years ago. And he's picked to be one of the top two shutdown corners in this year's NFL draft. It's kind of forecasted to see that.
Wow.
I think he's going to be a difference maker with this attacking defense and so forth. I really think he's going to be a prominent force within that new scheme. And, as far as the scheme, they're going to run a multiple. So, I mean, you might have 4 down linemen, you might have 5 defensive backs, you might have 3 down linemen. There's going to be a whole gamut of different things they're going to try to implement and keep people off balance. So, like I said, I think he's going to have a prominent role. And staying within the secondary, of the 126 players they have, you're going to have to make some cuts there, so to speak. If you weren't good enough to start in the 132nd pass defense in the country, you're going to have a hard time making it with this new coaching staff. That's my opinion, and I think there's been an emphasis on bringing in defensive backs through the transfer portal. And moving on to the next player would be a safety, Fred Perry. He's transferring in from Jacksonville State. He's familiar with Rodriguez's system. He's familiar with the defensive coordinator's system when he was at Jacksonville State. Very aggressive player, kind of a hard hitter, kind of been compared to Carl Joseph, Tim Agee, some of those hard hitters we've had in the defensive backfield, previously. I think he's going to have a major impact. And then also Jordan Scruggs, who's right now looking at possibly going to be a nickel back. He came from South Alabama, graded very high. Again, another aggressive player. And then there's also a player who's a linebacker from Colorado State, Chase Wilson. Experienced player. And just like all the other players I'm talking about, when the coaching staff came in, they talked about wanting to have bigger players, more aggressive players, and faster players. Well, the faster, that's being tested right now as practice is going along. But these guys are bigger than what we've had previously the past few years, and I think that's going to be a big difference. When you have a safety back there that's 6'3" versus somebody that's 5'10", quite a bit of difference there.
Yeah.
And then also another player that's been brought in, not in the secondary, but as a defensive end, is Jamori Robinson from Texas San Antonio. He's going to be sought after by the NFL as well. He has 1 year to play, but he was the AAC, the American Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year, and I think he's going to shine because he's a lot bigger than fast. I think that's going to be the big thing. Is we're going to see a more aggressive style of play, and I think we're going to have bigger, faster players as well. I think it's going to make a difference. And a lot of these guys coming in have experience, for multiple seasons, and I think that's going to play a part as well. Any comments on the defense?
It's nice to see that we're going to have some height back there at the safety position, if that's the guy, because I said that the last couple of years, we just don't have anybody who can get up to that second level.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're just throwing up those 50-50 balls, and we're losing the battle every time.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have a guy.
Well, and have that shutdown corner too. We've gotten burned back there several times, and that's going to be a big. It's going to be a big change to see that. So, there's a couple other corners that are coming in as well with experience. I didn't put them on my list because I think these other guys kind of stand out more. But I think there's going to be a big improvement in the defense. I really do. And I didn't really put any on the defensive line on there because we're fairly solid there as far as players coming back. We've got 4 or 5, on the roster that can. If we do multiple schemes where you're going to have 4, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 linemen, there's enough depth there to be able to do that, and some guys with experience. So I think the big factor is going to be linebacker and the secondary. We might even need to add one more linebacker, but even our linebackers were smaller than what they brought in. So we'll see how it goes. I think there's going to be a big difference there as well. Okay, and then you have to excuse me. I'm referring to some notes I have here, but as far as the offense goes, I think we're set as far as our starting running back. Everybody knows Jaheim White is the guy, and he has potential, I think, to really do well in this offense and really thrive on the type of offense they're going to run. But a question mark there with the running backs is, the backup running back right now is by committee. I mean, they've got about 5 guys back there that they're auditioning right now to get that backup player. Now they brought in the guy from Northern Iowa. He's about 6'3", about 240 pounds. That's a pretty good sized back for to really kind of fill that Owen Schmidt type role. As far as short yardage and trying to pick up some of the the red zone type plays and things like that. I really think that could be possible that he may end up being the backup. But you just have to see. I mean, they brought in a lot of different types of players, and be interesting. But as somebody that stands out that I think really has a chance to prove himself and move forward, we all know the offensive line is being piecemealed, so to speak. I only had a couple guys coming back after everybody either graduated or transferred.
Yeah.
But the center position with Landon Livingston, I think he has potential, to have a breakout year. I've seen some video on him the last few days. He is slimmed down a little bit, and his footwork looked really good. And I think he has potential. Plus, he has some experience. He did play some last year, and I think that could be a big thing for stability on the offensive line. As far as the other positions, they're all kind of wide open. But I do think a person, and he's actually not in school yet, an offensive lineman that they're bringing in that transferred from Princeton. He's a big kid, probably going to play tackle. But the key thing that he has going for him, one, he's experienced in multiple seasons, but he has experience in zone blocking. And this scheme that Rodriguez runs, it thrives on zone blocking for the offensive line. And I just feel like, and I've seen other, media personnel, they've kind of penciled him in as a starter just based upon his skills. And he was highly sought after. I mean, it came down to us in Georgia Tech, and we got him. So I think that's a pretty good get for us there. And I think he's another one that has potential to really do well, have a good year on the offensive line. Let's see here. Wide receiver, got a couple of guys that are kind of intriguing to me. First one being a transfer from Idaho State, Jeff Weimer. Came in late in the transfer portal, but he's had multiple seasons of 1,000 yards. Although it was at a lower, division, I really think there's that production's there, and he could be our guy to get down the field. We've had that, he's kind of long and lanky, and we've had that trouble being able to get separation and fight off those guys. And like he was mentioning about the defensive backs, we've had trouble not being able to catch those downfield passes. And I think he could be a factor there. Another wide receiver that you've heard a lot about as far as his speed and so forth is Cam Vaughn. He comes from Jacksonville State. He's originally from Georgia. Very fast. He ended up not playing the first few games, but he was a true freshman last year, but he ended up having 803 yards and 5 TDs in 8 games. Pretty good statistics. And he's familiar with Rodriguez's scheme. Everybody's kind of penciling him in as one of the starters in one of the positions as well. That could be the guy that takes over for Clement, who unfortunately left. And now the big question mark for the offense, and of course Rodriguez has commented, that there's he's really happy with the quarterback room as far as having a lot of options there, and he wants to try to have 3 quarterbacks ready to go to be able to win with 3 different quarterbacks. But I think the 2 that are really going to battle it out are Henderson and Nico Markiel. Nico has been here. He's paid his dues. I think he has a skill set that can do well in Rodriguez's offense. He's very similar in skills to the quarterback at Jacksonville State last year. He's undefeated as a starter, although, some of those games he was a little bit inconsistent, but he's undefeated nonetheless. And I think, that it's going to come down to him and then also the transfer Henderson from Texas A&M. On film, Henderson looks pretty good. He's got wheels. He can move. He's fast, and he has a pretty good arm. I don't think his arm is quite as good as Markiel's, but we'll see how this plays out. The press is kind of divided. Some of them think that Henderson's going to get the nod, and some of them think Markiel. And I don't think, and I wouldn't, if I were Rodriguez, I wouldn't do anything on this until the morning of the game. Then I would announce it either the day before or the morning of the game, just keep everybody guessing all the way through camp. And you have to prepare for 2 different types of quarterbacks, and it may be to our advantage.
Where's this Henderson kid from?
He's from Los Angeles, but he played at Texas A&M. He started 3 games and got hurt. And from what I understand, he was going to go to Liberty University. He was almost guaranteed to start there. But they made a push there late in the recruiting process, and he flipped to WVU. Like I said, on film, he looks like he fits the mold for the type of quarterback that Rodriguez is wanting to do. Of course, he's had an injury. Could be injury prone. I don't know. And I'm kind of a loyalty guy. I like to see Miracle get a shot. I mean, I think, he's paid his dues. He's been here. He's a team player. He's a fan favorite. But the times have changed, and Rodriguez is here to win now and not later. And I think he's going to go with the best guy that gives him the best chance to win. And I'll tell you, last but not least, an area it's kind of concerning. Kickers generally are brought in, and they're given an opportunity, but most of them don't get scholarships. They get academic aid or something along those lines to get them on, but you don't end up, using a scholarship for them. Right now, they brought in 1 place kicker who is on scholarship, and his name's Head. He's from Tulane. Very good kickoff guy. He's one of those guys that puts it out of the end zone more times than not. We've had a problem with that over the last, 10 years probably on that. And so that's a big plus for us. But from what I've read, they want to get a place kicker that doesn't do kickoffs. And right now we have 3 walk-ons out there. None of them are on scholarship. And if you have 126 people and you're trying to narrow that down to 105, how do you fit that in there? I don't know. Punter, we've got Straw and a walk-on, but in the NFL, a lot of teams go with 1 punter and 1 kicker, but I don't even know if we can do that in college or not. I don't know. And the guy from Tulane, I think he only kicked like 5 field goals last year. He's like 3 for 5, something like that. It's just hard to say whether he'd be your guy to do both or not. Right now, they got it up for grabs, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I feel sorry. We've always had a great walk-on program at West Virginia. We've had a lot of guys come through the walk-on program. Owen Schmidt, Justin Arndt was a linebacker about 10 years ago. Great player, linebackers. There was another kid from Bridgeport who was a linebacker, played for Brown. But I'm afraid the walk-ons are going to get left out in this equation here by limiting the numbers of scholars. Work. Any ideas on or your thoughts on that, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You got
Any
paused up a
thoughts
little bit.
on what I've talked about with the kickers and so forth on the uncertainty there and how you're going to get that how you get that filled?
Well, the kid from Tulane, Tulane scored a lot of points last year, so he was kicking a lot. Was he just their kickoff guy, or was he their field goal kicker?
He did some of both. I think they had another person that had. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they had another kicker as well that kicked some field goals. He kicked some, but he did all the kickoffs.
Yeah.
And they haven't named him as a starting kicker.
Mark, we appreciate that. Yeah, I think we're having connection problems here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're having connection problems here. I don't know if Greg is still with us either, but Mark, that was a tremendous overview, and it's exactly what we talked about, Jeff, on this show a couple of weeks ago. I never thought it would get to 126, but it was pretty clear that this was going to be see if you can make the team spring. And for those of you who have watched Rich Rod's first press conference, he wasn't going to say, and he didn't say much about the players. They were all concerned about saying too much because the portal opens up again right after spring practice. A little bit, we're going to have an early spring practice game actually on April 5th, but not so long after that the portal opens up again. So he said he was very advised with respect to limiting the comments on players, and he really hasn't seen that much so far. But one of the things that I thought was interesting, Jeff, and I'm thinking about you as a tight end. You played tight end and also tackle. He said, watch our tight end room. Our tight ends are going to play wide a lot. It's not just going to be inside blocking, but the offense that he runs requires him to do that. And he basically said, you people know the system we run.
Yeah.
We expect our quarterback to pass and run, and our tight ends are going to be split wide, and they're going to go down the field, and they're going to block. And that to me, I thought he gave a tremendous overview of the team and where we're at. And I agree with Mark. That was one of the things I was concerned about in terms of the kicking. Michael Hayes did a hell of a job for the time he was with us. Did you have a chance to study the snapping situation, Mark, at all?
Yeah, I don't recall the guy's name, but they do have a highly sought after long snapper that's sliding right into place there that's going to take duties. And they've got a couple of backups. But again, it's a scholarship situation. How are you going to give them a scholarship? What are you going to do to make this fit? So
yeah, it used to be that you need to be able to do something else in long snap. In my day, you were a long snapper, but that's not, nobody brought in just a long snapper like the NFL does as the roster spot. They had that when I was playing. I might end up making a team just as a long snapper,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nowadays you got that different type of player. He's not a lineman. He's more of a tight end type. To long snap, and hopefully they'll find what they want.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they've got that one kid that's ready to go. We'll just have to see how they work him in with the scholarship situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
yeah. The problem with the NIL now is, a lot of these kids, who might stick around and earn a scholarship eventually. There's always somebody out there offering money somewhere. So the fact that, it becomes a financial decision. I want to play at the Mountaineers. I want to play West Virginia football, and I didn't get a scholarship, but I love being here, and I want to be a part of this program. And somebody turns around and says, "Hey, we'll take you and pay for your school." That's a tough decision for parents and for a kid. With what school costs nowadays, and so it's a different game.
Yeah, and Mark, you and I were talking earlier today. The NCAA has a cap of 105, and we're at 126 now. And Rich Rod has already said he wants to go into the portal and get more players that way, and he'll have a better sense after the spring drills are over.
12.
Yeah, and so you're looking at the possibility of maybe 35 players who are on the roster now or won't be on the team in the fall. I mean, it's the math. The math is pretty straightforward that way.
Well, it's one thing I didn't touch on that I probably should have. I know he is recruiting with the linebackers and the defensive backs, and some of the wide receivers too, to be able to play multiple positions, and then on the offensive line and defensive line to be able to rotate around and play different positions as well. And I think on offense, he's trying to get everybody some experience at center because they don't have a backup there right now. I've heard the guy that's from Huntington that transferred from NC State could be the future there, but he's a year away probably being able to get a lot of time. So
yeah,
we'll see. I think bringing in people that can play multiple roles, and especially in the defensive backfield, is going to be big because if you have injuries, if you have lower depth due to the limitations on your roster, it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, Jeff, you got to get into a 3-point stance here because Greg's going to ask you. He has a game, and
okay.
Who's going to win this game, Greg or you? So, Greg, I think you're back with us now. So go ahead.
I didn't know there was going to be a test. So,
Well, it's what I used to tell. I guess Mark can be my enforcer now. I used to do a show where I had a buddy of mine that did the show with me, and he's about 6 foot tall, goes about 280, 290. And I would tell people if they didn't play the game right, he would come to their house and kneecap them. And he's the most mild-mannered guy you ever want to meet. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that, kind of shy. And I said, well, we really don't have any rules. We just kind of make them up as we go. But what we do here, ask you 3 rapid-fire questions. You got 30 seconds to answer them. And if they're way off base, then we'll censor you for that. But otherwise, just for fun. So,
all right.
And we call it, I was a basketball coach for 30 years. That's where the shoot to 3 comes from. But anyway, the first question, and I thought this would be appropriate since you are in and do quite well at it, the acting business. The first one, if they were going to make a movie about your life, who would play the lead role?
Oh, gosh. About my... I don't know. You know what? That's a tough question. My brother.
There you go. There you go.
He could see through all my bullshit, so my BS. Sorry. So he'd know how to play it. No, that's a funny question because who do you choose? It's like you say The Rock. I wish I looked like The Rock.
I thought Jeff Sniffen might say, well, Jeff Chase, of course, would be the one.
There you go. Yeah, I could play myself.
I had a longer
The
time.
role of Jeff Sniffen will be played by Jeff Chase.
There you go.
I love that.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right. If you had to lose a body part, what body part would you give up?
My mouth. Because it gets me in trouble way too much.
Well, that would limit your speaking roles, of course. But
yeah, but you know
what?
You wanted honesty.
All right, last one. You're doing good so far. You get to pick the way you're going to die. It can't be old age. How are you going to go out?
Oh, at my favorite pizza place.
There we go.
Eating all the pizza I could eat, pepperoni and sausage, and just until the lights turn out. Eating pizza because I don't eat pizza. Because I don't eat pizza anymore. It's like I stay away from carbs. So whenever I see a piece of pizza, I just say, "Oh boy."
Yeah. All right. Good answer.
Yeah.
That's your New Jersey background coming out.
It is. And I was going to say in New Jersey at a pizza place, but that's one of my pet peeves too, is people saying, "Oh, we're down in Florida. You can't get good pizza down there." Well, go back to Jersey and get your pizza. Because the food is incredible in New Jersey. I'll give you that. But that's put up with everything else for the food. I can go travel there, eat the pizza, and leave. So maybe it would be, if I had my choice, my favorite Jersey pizza place. Eat all the Jersey pizza. E&V Pizzeria in Paterson, New Jersey. And I get the Jersey accent when I start talking in Paterson, New Jersey. E&V. The best. I'm telling you, the best. Like nothing you ever had.
Oh man, tell you what, this has been fascinating to listen to some of these stories, and a lot of fun. Jeff, we appreciate you more than coming on and spending a little bit of time with us. We appreciate it so much.
I had a great time. I really did. I'm looking forward to my trip this July to Morgantown, and then going to plan on catching a few games this year also. So
awesome.
I really appreciate meeting all you guys and talking with you, and thank you for having me. And anytime.
Oh, fantastic! We'll definitely have to get you back. We'll check out some of these movies and shows as well, and then we'll get back and talk about some of the newest ones. Maybe you'll have a big trophy, Oscar trophy back in the is Oscars, is that what they get?
I don't know if I'd even accept an Oscar because I wouldn't go if they invited me. They don't want me there.
Oh, that might be.
You saw my Trump card right over here.
Make notes, Frank.
There you go.
They don't like me in Hollywood.
Mark, also appreciate you and all your information. I know with all these players coming in, it's really difficult to keep track of everything that's going on up there in Morgantown, but we appreciate having somebody. I think he's the second one that's come on that really knows what's going on up there, and some of these players. That's always fun to hear and listen to as well. So we appreciate you. And
thanks for having me on.
Oh, undoubtedly a big asset to us. I can tell you that right now. You do great work for us, and we appreciate you. Frank, anything you want to say before we close it off for the night?
Well, if Darren, if you could put up the guest for next week, I'll just say a few words about him. In fact, Mark, you may want to chime in here with Gary Lombard is our guest next week, who played on the 75 Peach Bowl. There he is, and he's there's the Gary's to the left, obviously, and there's Bobby Bowden with the victory hoist after the 75 Peach Bowl. And Gary is just like Jeff and so many other, really all of our guests, has had a great career after football. He's moved back to the Morgantown area, living on a farm not too far away from the city. And Mark, do you want to add anything about Gary? You know him well.
Yeah, Gary's kind of the contact person for that 75 Peach Bowl team. He keeps up with every player on that roster, and when they have get-togethers, reunions, and things, he's a big part of that. He was a defensive end, great player, good friends with Chuck Smith, who we've had on the show as well. I think it'll be a good interview for you. I think he can give you a lot of insight into that team and the chemistry, and just like a lot of the other great Mountaineer teams that had really good records, they all had that team chemistry.
Yeah.
And I think he can allude to a lot of that. He probably gave you some good tales on Bobby Bowden and Chuck Clausing and some of those coaches as well. That staff in '75 was impressive. Very, very similar to Carlin's staff in '69 and some of Don Nealon's, staff there in the early '80s. That very, very good coaches went on to be very successful. And I think it'll be a good interview.
Great, super.
Yep, looking forward to it. Before we go, we want to mention the women. They're up 12 now, late in the third quarter. They had it up to 17 minutes ago in the third. They're up by 11 now. So women taking care of business, it looks like, up in Morgantown tonight. Mark, again, thank you. Jeff, thank you again. More than you guys know. Yeah, we had a good time tonight. Very informative, very fun. And we look forward to doing it again. So, Frank, without anything further, I guess we'll bid our viewers good night. We appreciate everyone for watching here on the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. We look forward to coming to you next Wednesday with another great show. So I hope you'll tune in and join us there. Good night, everybody.